The native speakers were sometimes confused by the agent's interruption because they thought the communication was already fair, and they felt really annoyed when they were interrupted. This brings up potential of future design, actually, where we can provide reasons for everyone when the agent has to interrupt.
You're listening to Speaking of Language, a podcast recorded at the Language Resource Center at Cornell University. Each week, we explore a topic related to language pedagogy and second language acquisition. This week, on Speaking of Language,
Xiaoyan Li enlightens us on her role in developing an AI agent that helps enforce equal participation for native speakers and second language learners in online discussions.
Welcome to a new episode
I'm sorry, were we starting? Did we start?
Oh, Sam, why do you always interrupt me?
I'm sorry.
If only there were a bot that would ensure native speakers don't dominate discussions in multilingual online meetings. Seriously. Anyway, welcome to Speaking of Language. I'm Angelica Kramer, the director of the Language Resource Center at Cornell University.
And I'm Sam Lupowitz, the LRC's media manager. You guessed it, we are speaking with a guest today about an automatic agent that helps improve turn-taking online.
Welcome to Speaking of Language, Xiaoyan.
Hi, Angelica. I'm really excited to be here.
And we are so excited to have you.
Xiaoyan, please start us off by introducing yourself and sharing a bit about your background and path with languages.
Gladly. Hi, everyone. My name is Xiaoyan Li, and I'm currently a PhD student in information science. I work with Professor Sue Fussell, and my main research interests are multilingual communication and improving informal interactions, which include the hallway conversations and the water cooler conversations through technology when people have to meet remotely or in hybrid meetings.
What's your path with languages? What languages do you speak?
I speak Mandarin, which is obviously my native language, and I also speak English. And my path with English was a bit of a cliche because I started to fall in love with the language and the culture after watching Friends.
Oh, yeah, same.
Yeah, almost everyone else's journey. So I decided that I have to apply to a program in the U.S. As soon as I had the time and money to do so.
Nice. Wonderful. Well, this is one of the many things that TV is good for. I guess it brings wonderful scholars and people to different countries. So that's really nice. You just mentioned a little bit about your area of specialization, one of it being human-computer interaction, right? So computer-mediated communication and multilingual communication.
Yeah.
Can you describe a little bit about exactly what that work entails? What are you researching? What are you looking at?
Yeah, so HCI, a human-computer interaction, is an umbrella term that includes any research that involves the design and use of computer technology. And HCI researchers look at how to design technologies that allow people to interact with computers in novel ways. And in my case, I look at how to design technologies for people in multilingual groups to communicate better. And in my other research area, I look at how to use technology to help people to informally interact when they have to communicate through technology.
That's interesting.
How did you first become interested in this topic, and what led you to the field?
Yeah, so although I'm working on something slightly different, what led me to the field is actually the paper that we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
When I first joined the grad program in the U.S., I was a communication major, and I had to go to a lot of communication seminars, and that obviously require a lot of talking, and everyone else in my cohort was just perfect at that. They were great at expressing their ideas, and they were great at taking the floor and just getting their ideas across. But I was really struggling in those seminars, and those seminars were just a major part of my program at that time. So I brought up these concerns to my professor, Professor Su Faso, who did years of research in this field, and she reassured me that I was not alone in facing these challenges. So that was a relief. But then it was just fascinating to talk to her about this topic and read all the previous literature. And we got to learn how non-native speakers concern about their language barriers, and instead of only focusing on getting their ideas across. And she also brought up a point that I never realized. She said that native speakers actually have no idea of the language difficulties that non-native speakers face when they don't say anything. Native speakers actually just think they had nothing to say. So that was also a new perspective for me. And we just got super interested in the topic. And we had this opportunity for a summer internship at NTT in Japan, which is a top telecommunications company in Japan. So I worked with a close lab friend, Naomi Yamashita, and they helped to design the technology, and we collaborated to conduct this research that turned out to be really interesting and meaningful for both me and our lab friends and our lab.
Yeah, well, and for any non-native speaker anywhere too. So let's actually dive into this this project and this research and the paper that you recently published. So you tested a bot called a conversational agent that was programmed to intervene after native speakers took 6 consecutive turns during online conversation. So tell us more about how you set up this project, what you investigated, what you found, and very important, did the bot have an actual name?
The bot actually had an actual name. It's Vanessa.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's short for a facilitator for non-native speakers or something like that.
Okay,
But
nice.
we made this name for it to stand for something.
Sure.
And the agent was designed to, we used the IBM Watson automatic speech recognition technology to detect the number of turns by each member. And the agent detects the start of a turn when it sees the audio input of one speaker, and it detects the end of a turn when it sees another speaker took the floor and spoke 6 words or more. So the agent interrupt the conversation by asking someone else to speak. We designed it to be this way because previous studies that aimed at only providing language support for non-native speakers or implicitly reminding native speakers to pass the conversation floors didn't work. So we tried to ask the agent to directly make this request during the conversation to see if it has the effect affecting the participation among the group members. And it turned out it actually was able to increase the participation of non-native speakers in the automatic agent condition. It increased from 12% to 17% of the total number of words spoken. So we were glad to say that.
Sure.
But at the same time, the native speakers were sometimes confused by the agent's interruption because they thought the communication was already fair. And they felt really annoyed when they were interrupted. And this brings up potential of future design, actually, where we can provide reasons for everyone when the agent has to interrupt. So people know that it interrupted because the communication was not fair. Yeah.
This is interesting. How did the bot know who a native speaker of English was and who a non-native speaker of English was.
Yeah, this is actually also well, it will also be easy to detect through technology based on the number of words spoken. But for this specific study, we actually simply labeled the position
Got
of
it.
each speaker.
Okay, yeah,
So
that makes sense.
it knew that someone was non-native speaker
Yeah.
before the communication started.
Got it. And so the agent then simply interrupted after specific numbers of turn taking, right? So it didn't necessarily differentiate the intervention based on, person 1 talked for 10 minutes solid and then person 2 talked for another 10 minutes. So length of utterances, did that factor into it, or was it truly only turn taking by individuals?
Yeah, for this study, we only counted the number of turns and not the length of sentences or speech. But it can be a factor that future studies can take into account. Yeah.
This is so interesting, and I also in one of the recent write-ups here in the Cornell Chronicle, I also read about that the non-native speakers at one point were given the option to basically trigger the agent to stop the conversation, but that was
Yeah.
something that the non-native speakers didn't really take too much advantage of. Do you have a sense of why?
Yeah, that was actually super surprising and disappointing because we really had high hopes for the manual agent because we thought the automatic agent might interrupt at imperfect timings. So we thought the manual agent would be more helpful to the non-native speaker because they can just press the button and the agent will just create a floor for them. But it all just brought up to the original issue. They were still just concerned about finding the right timing to press the button, and they were worried about interrupting a lively discussion.
Sure.
So the first part is linguistic issues, and the second part is cultural issue because they were from a high context culture,
Sure.
and they think about the context before making a decision to take a certain action. So, yeah, that was surprising, but it was also interesting to know that the non-native speakers are just hesitant to interrupt, even though they had an assistant to help them.
Your lab is developing its own bot right now. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the new agent that our lab is developing, they will just learn from the findings that we got from the paper that we were just talking about. They will take into consideration of how non-native speakers are hesitant using the manual agent, and they will detect their psychological state using technology and decide the timing that they're more willing to participate and the timing that they're more willing to actually create a floor for themselves. And on the other hand, learning from the non-native speaker's frustration of being interrupted by an agent, the new agent that we are designing will bring the native speakers as a collaborator when the agent interrupts. So the agent will privately notify the native speakers that it might be timing
Interesting.
to pass
Yeah.
the conversational floor, so the native speakers can actually decide the right timing to pass out the floor without being interrupted publicly by the agent.
Oh, that is interesting. Huh. Fascinating. I can't wait to see how this work continues and what other findings you have. Do you have plans for running more experiments with the different agents to see, the feasibility of what the agent can do?
Yeah, definitely. me or someone else in our lab, we are definitely interested in testing out more future designs to improve this issue in the future, because it's really important for everyone in multilingual groups' perspectives to be heard, because that's how the strength of multilingual groups are built on.
Sure.
They build on diversity and heterogeneous perspectives. So, yeah.
Well, and I think not only for multilingual groups, but I'm just thinking about different personalities. Even if you have a group of, a homogeneous group of speakers, I mean, some people are shyer than others and, are hesitant to take the floor. So I think I can imagine many scenarios in group work, just in college classrooms alone, where one student tends to dominate. And I think ensuring that, small group work is more collaborative, I think an agent like that could have, huge benefits.
Yeah, definitely. Participation in any kind of groups is important, and different groups have, dominant speakers and less.
Yeah, less dominant ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So, of course, we approach this from the perspective of world language education. What are some of the opportunities that you see for, language educators and language learners based on your research? Are there specific, challenges or specific affordances that you think these technologies have?
Yeah, I think some lessons are that facilitating and reminding people to speak or reminding people of the participation imbalance actually works. That's a valuable lesson that we learned from the study. And also, it was an overarching theme from the interviews with the non-native speakers. Although sometimes they were surprised when the agent interrupted and when they had to participate in the conversation, they actually felt really good after having their ideas across.
Sure,
After having their perspectives heard by their group members. So I think it's useful for the non-native speakers, including myself, to focus more on getting the ideas across and less on the anxiety about language barriers.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point.
Fascinating. So, to go a little broader and maybe a little sillier, we've spoken with a few guests about AI and ChatGPT, other examples of machine learning. How do these technologies affect you in your work? And are you worried at all about a robot uprising?
Yes, for the first question, they are great. They are great for my research area. I have talked to some of my colleagues, and they actually say that ChatGPT provide better language style and grammar for translation, and they can definitely be potentially used as a translating assistant for non-native speakers. Although their robustness was not as good as commercial translation technology, but I'm sure it has great potential. As for the robot uprising, yes. I have a really good friend who is also in our lab researching on the power and robot.
Okay.
And he was looking at that topic simply because of the fear of uprising of robots. So, yeah, I guess I was influenced by him a little bit.
So hang on, what's his stance? He is concerned about the robot uprising?
Definitely.
Sam.
All right. This is good. We had a lot of we had some more utopian and more pragmatic views of this, but
Yes.
this is the last two people we've asked this question have expressed some more doubt and concern. So this is something we'll continue to investigate, I think.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, I still agree with our last guest, though, that none of this will happen during our lifetimes, or at least I hope so. This is wild. Xiaoyan, this is so interesting. I'm really fascinated by your work. Where can our listeners learn more about you and your work and maybe that recent paper that was just published?
Yeah, they can find the recent paper through ACM Digital Library. They can also find other related work of me and other people in our lab by simply Googling my name and the name of our lab, which is Computer and Collaborative Technologies Lab in Cornell University.
Wonderful. And we'll make sure to link to those in the show notes as well.
Before we sign off, we'd like to ask you to share a word in a language you speak, love, are learning, want to learn, that makes you laugh. What is that word?
I took a German class back when I was in college. And I learned this word that means goodbye in German, and it's tschüss, which sounds exactly like go to hell in Chinese. So whenever I hear about it, I laugh a little because it's philosophical.
This is a power that you didn't know you had, Angelica.
No, I did not. The new heights. I love it. I can't believe that I've never heard this before.
I know. This is you could have been really offending people without even knowing it.
Oh, now I need to think about all the Mandarin speakers I know. Yeah. And I'm just going to send them straight to hell when I say goodbye.
Oh, boy.
This is awesome. Very, very funny. This is funny. I'm going to chuckle from now on every time I say tschüss. And I was about to commend you on your German pronunciation because that was very good. Very good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, Xiaoyan, thank you so much for speaking of language with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. I really enjoyed talking to you, and this is a really fascinating experience for me.
Well, you did well, and we didn't even need an agent to
there you go.
Stop Sam from interrupting us.
I know. It's this problem we have here. Next week, we are joined by Margaret Ransdell Green and Eric Barker.
Margaret is a linguist and creator of constructed languages, or conlangs. Those are fully developed languages spoken by fictional peoples in creative works. Her husband, Eric, is a musician who collaborates with Margaret on creating music for these cultures and peoples.
We're excited to learn about their work and process. Until then,
tschüss!
The Language Resource Center is located on the ground floor of Stimson Hall on Cornell's main campus in Ithaca, New York. Check us out on the web at lrc.cornell.edu.
Or follow Cornell LRC on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Speaking of Language is produced by Angelica Kramer and Sam Lupowitz.
Recorded by Sam Lupowitz.
Original music by Sam Lupowitz, Dan Gable, and Joe Gibson.
Thanks also to the College of Arts and Sciences at Cornell University.
As a reminder, the ideas and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of the College of Arts and Sciences or any other official entity of Cornell University.
We thank our listeners, and do stay tuned for our next episode.